Thank you, Steve. Oh, well, you guys can hear me. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Tony, for the amazing recommendation. You recommended my talk. I appreciate that after your amazing doubt in my talk. But my name is Ismail Elshareef, or Ish, because people don't know how to pronounce my name correctly. And that's my email. You can find me on Twitter as well. I was the director of front-end engineering at Edmunds for 2.5 years, and we've done amazing, amazing progress in terms of performance, front-end performance, handling ads. And now, actually, as of 3 weeks ago, I joined the Razorgator team, and hopefully we'll bring that team also up to speed and bring some of the great things that we've done at Edmunds over there as well. So back in 2008, I would say fall 2008, we had an idea of redesigning one of our properties, the Inside Line Automotive Enthusiast site. So the redesign involved back-end redesign, front-end redesign, so we had an opportunity to actually create our own CMS, and so we really wanted to get it right. And also performance was a priority. It was a requirement. We had to have the pages perform, and performance was one of the metrics that we measured every single day, every single time we deployed. But at the end of the day, ads are actually our bread and butter. So if we don't have ads on the site, we don't get paid. It's as simple as that. So the three opportunities created this humongous opportunity for us on the front end. We thought, this is it. This is where we get to shine. This is where we get to do something that's really exciting. So we had two options. Either create a fast site that handles third-party code, including, for example, Omniture, Facebook, Brightcove, and of course ads, or create a fast site that doesn't really handle ads, or third-party in general, which means that if you include third-party, the site will, by default, become slow. So we went ahead with the first option. We wanted to really create a site that's fast. At the same time, we wanted to maintain the ad impressions to ad events variance that we had from our old site. And so that was the big challenge that we had. So when we took off trying to accomplish this goal, we were reminded every single time we were designing the site that ads and third-party are dragging us down. Every single time you add something that is out of your data center, out of your control, invariably that asset or assets will bring your performance down, much like Homer Simpson here. So third-party code, we took a look at third-party code and its format. So third-party code exists in two formats, right? Iframes and JavaScript, especially ads. So iframe is it's not a big deal. I mean, you can always lazy load or late load your iframes by setting the source attribute. Everybody knows that. And it's also sandbox code. So your namespace, your code that you have on your page is not going to be polluted by the code that you have in your iframe. The only drawback to that is the fixed width and height, and that's something that that was a disadvantage for us in our design. We wanted something that's more fluid, which JavaScript has, but the JavaScript code cannot be really late loaded because most ads use document.write, and document.write, as all of you know, I guess, has to be included before the unload event is fired. Otherwise, it will overwrite your whole page. So we're limited by when we include those assets. And of course, access to the DOM, when you include something in JavaScript, they have the power. They have basically access to the whole DOM, and they can pollute your namespace. But of course, you get richer content, and I'm going to show you some of the amazing ads that we have on our site, on admin site. So we had a number of failed attempts that we tried. We tried to break the ads. We tried to, we had this idea that we can get into the internals of the ad and just make it all work, and we're just going to break them. Yeah, that worked very, very well. We spent 2 weeks trying to override document.write in all sorts of ways, and it all broke, like burnt and crashed. We burnt and crashed when we had to download 2 ads in parallel, and it just like that did not happen. And also, we tried the iframe and copy. So we loaded an iframe with a page that lives in our domain, and on that page, I guess, you load the JavaScript ad, and then once it's done loading, you copy the content from there and move it over to your page. And it was just like so convoluted, and it was just not maintainable. So after 3 weeks, I would say, from trial and error, trying to break the ads, trying to control it, we just gave up and said, you know what, the lesson learned here is that JavaScript ads should be treated as a black box. Let's work with the ads and try not to intimidate them, much like Milton here. You don't want to intimidate Milton and put him in the basement, otherwise he's going to set fire in your building, and that's what ads would do when we try to play around with them. So then we had the idea of creating our JavaScript loader, and the idea here is that we want to have control over our assets, our images, our resources, and render the page the way we want to render it in complete independence from everything else that's going on the page, including DOM events. I'm going to explain a little bit how that works. So this is one of the redesigned pages that we have on admins. It's going to be launched later this year in the fall. So what we did was we created a very simple JavaScript object at the very top of the page. It's called page setup. Has a bunch of properties and methods. And it basically looks something like this. And a very important thing in this object is that it really acts as a holdup. Like it's there to hold all the logic, all the JavaScript files that need to be on the page, and all the JavaScript code that needs to be executed on the page, and the order in which those JavaScript codes need to be executed in. So that's the page setup. So all your different snippets on the page will actually use the page setup to tell it, hey, page setup, I have these dependencies, 3 files that I need to load first before you execute my logic. And so your page is basically going to be comprised of like numerous snippets like that basically defer the execution that they want to have on the page to the page setup. So the page setup now is eating all of that. And at the very bottom of the page, we include our JavaScript loader. So it's the very bottom of the page, right before your closing body tag. And once that loader.js is included, it's basically an anonymous function that gets executed right away. And what it does is that it loads the global core libraries, including YUI. YUI is our main library. We build our own core libraries on top of YUI. So it includes that. Of course, it reads all the files that we have registered in page setup, and it's smart enough to know how many duplicates we have, and it weeds out the duplicates and makes sure that those files that were requested are not part of the core library, otherwise it will call them in. And it also executes JavaScript chunks in the priority in 25 millisecond intervals. And has a debugging feature, which is very important. It comes in very handy when we have to isolate what are the problems that are ad-related and what are the problems that are our code related, basically. And the reason we had this in is because 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago even, we had a lot of problems in some of our pages where we would be just hanging, and we had no idea why they're hanging. And after, I remember back in summer of 2008, we spent almost all summer trying to figure out what's going on. It turned out some of the ads were causing memory leaks in the browser, and the browser would just hang. So now we have the ability of disabling, just by passing some query strings in the URL, we have the ability to disable all ads on the page. And yeah, that's basically what I'm talking about. So why have the JavaScript loader? JavaScript loader allows us to execute JavaScript chunks in order of priority, which allows us to render stuff that's below the fold with a lower priority, above the fold with a higher priority. And because we're SEO-centric, we have a lot of requirements by SEO. For example, keeping the header at the bottom of the page, so it's physically at the bottom of the page, but it needs to be at the top of the page, and all that fun stuff. And also provides independence from DOM events. And that's where it becomes very, very important when you want to handle JavaScript ads. As I mentioned, iframe ads are okay and not a problem. So third-party code with the loader, this is how it works. You have iframe ads. You just basically lazy load them or late load them in the desired priority. All you have to do is include the iframe tag when give it an ID and the specific width and height. Do not set the source attribute here. and then subscribe a JavaScript chunk into the page setup and tell it basically, your JavaScript chunk is going to say, hey, with the iframe with this ID, set the source attribute to this string. That's it, basically. Very, very simple. So that can happen after the unload event fires or before or whatever. We really have we don't depend on the unload event at all here. With the JavaScript ads, however, what we do is, because our loader does not depend on DOM events, we include the JavaScript add calls below the loader. So once the loader is included, it goes through the page setup, includes, it adds all the dependencies, the JavaScript files, and it executes the JavaScript chunks, and it just goes to town. It really has no idea what's going on after it's included. So what we do, we include the JavaScript adds below the JavaScript loader and have them, basically what happens is that they delay the unload event, but the perceived performance by the user is seeing something happening on the page, and for them, the page is very responsive. And that's why the talk is mitigating the impact. It's not eliminating the impact, because every single time you're dealing with JavaScript ads, you're really not, they're going to impact your performance, and what we did here is just trying to mitigate it. So here's an example of the homepage, inside line homepage, with ads and without ads. As you can see, there are 13. So the request, when document complete, we have 27 requests without ads and 40 requests with ads. And those are just the ad requests. And we have 2 ads on that page, only 2. So as you can imagine, there's always an impact when you call in ads on your page. But considering that our site is very heavily rich, it's a very rich media site, very high in rich media content, I should say. That's a very, very good measurement, and that actually is on a DSL network from Dulles or something like that we were able to accomplish. So in conclusion, I would say in order for us, at least our experience at Edmunds, the way we were able to mitigate ads' impact on our page performance really included the separation of responsibilities. The key factor that we had to come up with, or that we came up with and helped a lot, was that we ran our rendering of the page and everything that we had control over in a completely separate track from that of the ads. And also, just delay the ads as much as you can. I know for some business requirements require the ad to be the first thing that fires on the page, but now you have to work with business people and explain to them why there is an advantage of delaying the call of the ad while keeping the user busy with your own content, the content they came to your site to see, and then load the ad. I mean, if the user is engaged, they're not going to skip the page like in 2 seconds, right? And that's I think the key understanding that you need as an engineer. You need to really talk to your ad ops and your business people to make them understand. And we had to do that at Edmunds. I mean, it wasn't very easy to get this done, because ads, as I said, were our bread and butter, and it was very, very hard for us to kind of like make the ads delay the execution of the ads. And we had to prove that if we delay the execution of the ads, the whole page is going to load faster, including the ads. And business people and executives got on board with that. And that's another important factor that helped us a lot. You really need to get executives buy-in. And kudos to the people at Edmunds, really. They were 100% behind us. They wanted us to try different things, and they didn't care if we failed or not. And the last thing is, do not mess with the ads internals. You're just going to lose a lot of sleep over it. The last thing is, we're hiring. Edmunds is hiring. Razorgator is hiring. So please come and see me after this, and we'll chat. So now, questions. I know you guys have a lot.
So the cool thing about this, if I understood your early slide, is you said you wanted to stay within a variance of the ad performance, basically, the revenue.
Right.
And so you did this without seeing, any significant drop-off of click-throughs.
No, we actually saw a decrease in the variance. And the ad people, the ad ops will be able to answer more about that. We were going back and forth with ad ops and asking them, guys, please tell us if you're seeing something crazy going on. And they were like, no, performance is awesome. We love it. Whatever you're doing, just keep doing it and do not change anything. And to us, those are the people that come to us and say, holy crap, like what's going on here? What did you break? And they're very happy with how the ads are performing. And the reason I mentioned ad impressions to ad events is because on our pages, when you load the page, so on page load, ads fire. So that's an ad event, we call it. And then we have carousels that users interact with, and every time users interact with those carousels, we refresh the ad. So that kind of interaction is called also an ad event. So it's not a one-to-one, if you will. We have different interactions or actions on the page that cause the ads to refresh, and that's what they correlate. Go ahead.
So I guess the thing that I worry about, and maybe you were talking about, is by moving ads later in the page,
Right.
you're sort of gambling that the users are going to navigate away before that impression gets. And did you have any measurements about what kind of time difference you had from when ads normally showed up on the page, when the impressions actually happened, before and after this change? Like how much wiggle room did you have there? Like how much?
We didn't have, I mean, it's hard to measure because we're not dealing with apples to apples. I mean, we completely changed our infrastructure and how the pages are put together. But we found that people stayed on our pages longer with making the pages faster. I'm going to try to show you what I'm talking about, and hopefully the Wi-Fi is not going to let me down here. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Where is it? Yeah, there we go. So we designed the site. Is that it? One sec. Yeah, it's designed for 1280 resolution. So for some reason. Uh-oh. Okay. One sec. Wow, yeah, see, because the resolution is terrible here. But as you can see here, it's really super fast. And if you look at all the content we have, it's massive. I mean, we have these humongous Flash files that we're also lazy loading and all of that stuff. So to answer your question, I don't have specific measurements, but we know from our logs and from our analytics that users are staying longer on our pages than they were on the older site. And the fact that the whole page loads with ads in less than 3 seconds or 3.5 seconds, that shows us that it's not a problem. The other part of it is we had a lot of problems with ads that would just take forever to load. With this approach, we don't care how long the ads take. They can take forever. Our page is rendered and the user can interact with them. And whenever those ads come in, we'll just relocate them and put them where they're supposed to be on the page. And basically, we call it a day. So those ads, we're going to lose the impressions anyway with those slow ads. So the advantages for us is that the user can still interact with the page. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, just wanted to respond to the previous question from our experience in Hotmail. No amount of delay loading or bringing the ad up front is going to solve the problem. The problem is engagement. Solve the engagement problem, you solve everything else.
Right.
And most of the ad center communication, when we communicate with Hotmail, want to bring the ad in the header, and we're trying to push the ad downstream. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, if you don't solve the engagement problem, it's not going to be solved.
Right.
Just want to say that.
That's true. Thank you. And I do not want to misspeak here, but I know that the folks at Edmunds are trying to make the JavaScript loader that we built open source. So because it's almost ready to be open source. So I know that they're going to try to do that. But.
So it's very ironic, but there's a organization of advertisers who are supposed to take over the conference center, and they're saying that we're taking too long to get out of here.
Exactly. Huge delay.
I think it's very cool that as you're talking, like you worked around. It's like a very Zen-like thing where you worked around the problem. Right. Like you acknowledged like. That you can't mess with the ads, so how can we take what we do control and work around that? And with Tony's philosophy background. I think that's a very Zen-like thing, and it's
We try.
great to have you two talking about it. So very impressed. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Ismail.
Thank you, guys.